Good morning, everybody. This is Jake from Everything is Jake, my new YouTube channel. I hope my adventures, along with my producer-director Catherine, throughout the country excite you and want you to subscribe and join. This is going to be our documentary on the first ghost railroad of Everything's Jake. And boy, is it an interesting one. Behind me, you see the site, what's left of the Nevada Northern and Southern Pacific at the time depot in Cobre, Nevada. What I've learned from locating and finding ghost railroads are two things. One is there was always the need for people to get to civilization because we are in the middle of no civilization, probably 60-70 miles from the nearest city. That meant at this end, in 1905, they started the Nevada Northern from this site and went about 150 miles south to the second common factor of these ghost railroads, and that's what I call the prize. And we will see the prize hopefully at the end of this documentary to the west of Ely that has its own history. But it took about a year until 1906 to finish the rails from here in Cobre to Ely, about 150 miles south, as I mentioned, in 1906. Passenger service was started as well, but only lasted till about 1941. And the railroad that we will look for and see ceased operations about 1983. There were a couple other attempts to revive it as kind of the copper kind of fluctuated the price, and a few attempts were made, but not really very many that were successful. So today, as I said, this is the site of Cobre, and the depot that was here east on Southern Pacific, which actually had acquired the Central Pacific before that and has now become part of the Union Pacific when they merged in 1996, was Salt Lake City, Ogden to the east, and behind me to the west would take you to Wells and Reno and ultimately to California. So let's see what we can find around here in Cobre. A lot of debris scattered in the desert, but we're going to see if we can find the tracks heading south and work our way through this documentary all the way to the prize west of Ely. It's Jake, people. Move down the line here. Nevada Northern, we've come to the first kind of branch line here, and it veers off to the kind of the southeast, and it heads over to that gray engine house. You probably stored equipment in there, but this was the first branch you could see, and the branch and rails heading straight were actually the one that headed south toward Ely. Here we are still in Cobre. This is old, looks like it was for a hand cart. You've got tracks going into it, pretty dilapidated. Then in the background, you can see the main line, Southern Pacific, now Union Pacific. That the Nevada Northern tied into during its heyday. So let's continue on down the tracks. Hi everybody, it's Jake. And we just finished our first Ghost Railroad introduction at Cobray. And guess what? The train's coming. So we're going to turn it over to Catherine. Enjoy the show. Like a long string of grain cars again heading east toward Ogden on the old Southern Pacific, now Union Pacific line. Actually originally the Central Pacific. This is actually part of the Transcontinental Railroad that we will investigate on Everything is Shake at a later time. Way to the east, he's moving pretty good. A lot of people ask me, why do some of the Union Pacific have logos from other railroads? Perfect example is CMO, which is the old Chicago, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Omaha Railroad. The Omaha route, they called it. And Union Pacific has just left them on there instead of redoing them all. Hi everybody, we've come a few miles south of Cobray and the beginning of the Nevada Northern, and as you can see behind me, the track's still in place, obviously not in use, well rusted, ties are not in great shape, can't see a cattle guard there. So behind me is looking south, and looks like we got about 140 miles to 150 miles that we're going to follow this Ghost Railroad down to Ely and the mines that were west of it, which was early 1900 era. So let's head out and see what we find south of where we're standing, which is south of Cobray. Hi everybody, it's Jake again from Everything is Jake, and we are now find ourselves in Curry, Nevada. And as you can see, I am standing on the Nevada Northern Railroad tracks that are still in place. There's two tracks here, a siding, and down behind me that we will check out, we're going to check out the old Curry Depot. And one of the exciting things you can see is an old semaphore up there that goes way back. This line was used by the mines west of Ely up until about 1983, and then the line was discontinued. The tracks haven't been removed, so let's go down and see what is going on at the depot. Well, we've gotten closer and approached the Curry Depot on the Nevada Northern Railroad, about halfway between Ely at the south end and Cobre, where we started this adventure. You can see the depot is in pretty not the best shape, but you can still make out the Curry sign and some of the other support buildings as the rails head off to the north and east. That semaphore is really cool. Okay, here we are. We're next to the Curry Depot, built around 1905, 1906 as the tracks were being built south from Cobre, where we started this adventure, down toward Ely. So obviously a midway point that has two tracks, obviously for siding. Well, we've come out and hiked out a little bit to the west of Curry, and we have reached the switch where the second set of tracks was separated, probably about a half mile or so west of the depot there. Also, one of the great things about locating these ghost railroads is trying to find the why, as we've mentioned before. So let's go down the tracks here a little bit more, and I think we might be able to see the why. A little farther down past the switch is we found the Y. You can see the branch line off the main line heading to the south there, down toward that bluff over there, and then the other half of the Y would be down along that line of bushes. Okay, we've come a little bit down the southern leg of the Y, heads down toward that bluff as mentioned. And you can see off in the distance the other side of the leg of the Y that would then reconnect to the main line, which is just to your right here. Awesome sky today. How beautiful is it out here? You are out in rural America, way out of rural America. Hi everybody, it's Jake, and we have now reached McGill, Nevada. And what you see behind me is the old Nevada Northern Depot for the town of McGill. McGill was the processing town up until the 80s actually, of all the copper that we will see later on in this documentary from the Robinson Mine Complex. This was built around 1910, and passenger service lasted until about 1941. The town of McGill received a grant to replace the roof in about 2015. So it's great to see that this craftsman style depot is being renovated and protected for all of history. Well, we've panned around below the station. You can also see the McGill yard. It should be noted that this site above the depot was the large concentrator for the copper that came out of the mines west of Ely. It was abandoned in 1983, which is when the Northern Nevada Railroad ceased operations as well. We're now looking to the south at the McGill Depot for the Nevada Northern Railroad, and on the west side of the building you see the tracks and the passenger platform that was used, as I said, up to about 1941. So this is really awesome. Hopefully this building is protected, and let's see what's next. Let's head toward Ely and keep checking out the Ghost Railroad of the Nevada Northern on Everything is Jake. Hi everybody, Jake here, and we have made it to East Ely, Nevada. And let me tell you, if you're a railroad fan or railroad buff, you got to make the trip out here. It's a long way out here, about 250 miles from Salt Lake or 250 miles from Vegas. So we're going to walk around here and check out some things. This was built in 1905, 1906. Obviously you can see it's a mission style. So we're going to have Catherine kind of cruise around and see what we've got here. But once again, you got to make the trip out here if you're a real rail fan. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Jake from Everything's Jake, and I'm just showing you, here is the prize. This is the Robinson Mining Complex. You can only get to the tailings. It is an active mine today, owned by a Polish group, but this has been active actually since the 1800s, and what was originally looked at as gold and silver ultimately became a massive copper mining complex. There's 3 pits, and really it started going boom in the early 1900s, which therefore created the need for the railroad. So in the early 1900s, 1905, 1906, where we started back in Cobre, which is about 140 miles north of here. That was the beginning, and this is the southern terminus. We're west of Ely, Nevada. More of the Robinson Mining Complex. This is a little bit further south from the terminus, and this is looking east with the old town of Ruth, Nevada, founded in 1903. In the foreground. Now my understanding is that the copper concentrate is all taken by truck over to Utah, New Salt Lake City. So that concludes our trip. I want to just thank Catherine for the production and direction and videography of this segment, of this story. So remember, until next time, everything is Jake.